Welcome back to the Rocket Refuel. I'm your engineer producer, Kyle W. And I got with me tonight
Dan, sad Rocket fan.
And Nate, the Texas Rocket.
Man, I love that nickname. That's sticking like molasses.
It is catchy.
I like it. So, per usual, the last few episodes we've really focused on trying to bring just a quick update for you fans and exactly what we plan on doing tonight. And we're going to focus heavy on our unfortunate early exits from the MAC tournament for both men's and women's. We had very high hopes for both teams and a little disappointing end to the season, especially for women's. They had just a stud of a roster. So we're going to kick it off with Dan, give you a few updates on that and maybe a few opinions on that as well.
Yeah, so the men got it out of the way early. Lost the 11 a.m. game on Thursday against the presumable home team, Kent State. Back-to-back games. It's kind of just a rough draw. You play them the last regular season game, you cut down the nets, and then the team that you were tied with loses to give you the outright championship in the regular season, but then it keeps Kent State on the same line as you. And so you got to sit for a week, go over the game film a million times, as Todd said last week, and we just didn't shoot well. It was our lowest point production of the season, 59 points. Shots didn't fall, layups, threes. It didn't really matter. Defensively, we played as good as we usually do, but offensively, Moss was 1 of 8 from the field. As your first team All-MAC guy, that's just not going to get it done. He had a lot of turnovers too. He just didn't play well.
We talked about this pre-show, but UT's really set up this year to where if their shots are not dropping, it's really hard for them to win games. They don't crash the boards like you normally would see a UT team dominate in, and it's just been that kind of year.
They set up for so many ISOs. Like they want to just go one-on-one, and so we don't get a ton of threes. And so if you fall back early or fall behind, you're screwed. And that's just what happened. Just Kent just kind of kept us within like a 4 to 8 point game the whole game, and we just never made a run. Maddox had 19 points, Cochran with 14. And yeah, Lawrencetown came in and played hard. We're not built to come back. And I think Briggs wrote an article on the format of Cleveland and maybe the sites should change. I don't know. I think it's relatively fair, but it hurts just because our draw was 11 a.m. against one of the home teams. And I think we actually had the home crowd probably. We just couldn't get into it. But there's just really no advantage to going 8-10 in the league or 14-4. As long as you make Cleveland, you have a chance. And then your later teams like Akron, who gets to play the afternoon game, they don't have to be up at 5 a.m. It's a cold shooter's gym. It was for pretty much every game outside of maybe Ohio's first game. So we lost in the quarters, and then the MAC ended up getting what they wanted with the 2 versus 8 matchup, Akron and Kent in the finals, and really Kent should have won it. They've intentionally fouled and barely touched the guy, and they called it, and so Akron sunk free throws to send them to the dance.
What's interesting is I was actually reading some threads today about Big Ten championship, SEC, just trying to pick my March Madness brackets, and for how much it matters to be in that MAC championship bracket for your automatic bid. It seems like it doesn't matter as much for these Power 5 conferences to win the championship outright. The seeding's pretty much there for those schools.
Yeah, their brackets are made before the weekend, basically. So the Big Ten championship is Sunday afternoon. They don't change the bracket. So they saw Wisconsin and Illinois were in. Wisconsin got a 5 seed. They were terrible for like most of January and February, and they wouldn't have moved the line if they would have beaten Illinois or not. So yeah, especially for the late weekend, it does not matter.
little upset tip there. I think they played James Madison, correct? First round.
Yeah.
That might be a good pick there.
Super underseeded. Like they went on the road and beat Michigan State, and Michigan State somehow in 9. Like what? Like I got JMU going 2 rounds and knocking off Duke too. Like hell of a team.
Wow. Okay.
One thing I
Good
will say,
loss.
this requires, I would say for both of them actually, real quick, I feel like they need to do something where, the regular season matters. And whether
Mhm.
it be like, make a certain point system for the regular season and then a tournament point and then combine the highest one goes. That way it's not, you don't win your conference in the regular season and then you lose in the tournament in the semis or whatnot. And then it just doesn't matter. Your season's done. I feel like they need to come up with something to, try and get that truly best team in. I'm not saying, Toledo, just because they finished first this year, might have, not. Akron was a good team,
Yeah.
but I feel like you have there should be rewarded for doing well in the season for the in the regular season. It's just you might as well just play to get in, and like you said, I just feel like it's kind of a waste for the regular season if you.
It is, yeah. As long as you make the dance, that tournament matters. But I think it kind
Oh,
of comes down to the fact that we're in a minority group where, we're saying, hey, we need more bids for our conference, and most others are like, whatever.
yeah.
Well, the NIT got rid of our automatic bid, and then 15 power teams declined the NIT. So the NIT for the men this year sucks, and we don't get an automatic bid anymore. But we would have, and if you just would have kept the old system, all these automatic teams would have been in, like App State and Toledo, and then there's no problem. No one has to decline bids, and you just get league champs in that care. Now it's so watered down. So, and the CBI and CIT that Todd said, it's like going 6-6 in a bowl game. Um, he's really right when it gets down. You've got UC, Riverside, and all these teams in. Why would you play in that fourth or fifth rate tournament and have to travel and pay your expenses? Like, I understand.
That's the biggest thing, and I saw a few schools opt out of that just because of the expenses. They couldn't justify it.
But the NIT is bullshit. Like Syracuse, you can play. Like Indiana, it used to be at Madison Square Garden in the Final Four, and it was like historic. And if you won it, it actually meant something. Now these teams, it's in Vegas. They're like, our kids are going to get in more trouble if we end up in Vegas anyways, so they just opt out. But I don't know. It sucks. It hurts to end the season like that. Just how things are going.
Yeah.
All right, Dan. Well, let's roll into the women's results and just a heartbreaker of a comeback. They almost won that game. I was actually I put my resignation with work, so I was in a meeting and watching that game. I'm not gonna lie, at the same time, and I was just like, oh, and they're like, "Do you got something to add, Kyle?" I'm like, not really, man."
Well, also Cochran and Moss are in the portal, maybe with more coming on the men's side. So we'll see how the dominoes fall for the men, who we get for transfers. There's a lot of good players out there, but this young core we thought next year was gonna be the year, might be young again. The women won their first game. That was good. we started off slow per usual. It just seems like this team's MO is just bad first quarters, bad first half, and they pulled away and they won by 11 or 12 over Western, who is a decent team. And then Buffalo knocked off Bowling Green, so we got to see the Bulls again. And that was a team that we knew had I guess it's called, her name is Chella Watson, not Shayla Watson. Had the girl that led the MAC in scoring this year, and actually our point guard Sophia Wired won MAC Player of the Year, maybe controversially, and they got to go head to head, and we held her to 17 points better than we did the first time. She had 47 the first time. She had a 30 against us this time, and Toledo was dominated for 3 quarters. But as far as an at-large goes, I turned the game off. I actually had to go to work, and I was like, if they just make this a game, maybe we still have an at-large chance. And we sent it to OT. We won the fourth quarter 29-14 and had a couple chances to win it. But
Man, there's like 5 or 6 steals in a row. It was like almost watching like Reggie Miller's like quick 9-point game that one game. It was just, I was like, this might happen. That's kind of crazy.
In the first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter, we erased the 15-point lead. And then it was just nip and tuck the last end of the game. Buffalo went 11 of 22 from 3, shot 50%. And that
everything was
what
dropping. I mean, they were hitting like way beyond the arc. like a few of
Yeah.
those shots, and it was just money. I was like, this team's going to be rough to
Just
play
had an
today.
answer for everything that
Yeah.
Toledo had. Yeah.
But the problem is Buffalo really slowed down and ran their offense. They would get down and really set it up, and I felt like it just wasn't the Toledo team that we've seen with the composure. They just felt rushed and panicked for most of the game, and it was just kind of strange with the veterans we have on the team.
Yeah, we pressed early, but it wasn't like a tough press. They would just lob it over and beat it. And then in the
Right.
fourth quarter, we showed some want and actually gave them pressure, and it worked. So if we would have had the energy the whole game, maybe it's a different story. But I mean, Sophia had 4 points on 6 shots. Your MAC Player of the Year, 4 points. That's not going to get it done. There's enough good players in this league. And like Q had 18 points, but she was like 0 of 6 from 3. Sammy had a good game both games, but it's got to be more on Sammy and Kira to be your consistent. Like your 2 MAC Players of the Year have to play well down the stretch, and they didn't. And sadly, if your point guard all MAC player disappears, you aren't going to win a game in the NCAA tournament anyways. So we lose to Buffalo. They end up losing to Kent State, who I think Ball State was looking ahead in the next game, and Kent got the home crowd there, and Kent got it done. So they're a 15 in the NCAA tournament, which kind of leads to the next point of where Toledo ends up in the postseason. But like almost all of the mid-major leagues, their regular season champ won. So there was just no spots for Toledo to jump anybody by not winning the league. Like every team, like these 12, 13, 14 seeds, they're all like 27-4. So there's a lot of good mid-major teams in this NCAA tournament on the women's
So
side.
I'm gonna play the casual fan.
Sure.
Explain Michigan.
Big Ten.
I know, but that's it.
Hey, I've been getting shit on all week. People are like, you just don't get it, man. It's like, no, I get it. But can we all just say that the system's rigged?
Yes.
They're like, they beat Ohio State. They beat Indiana. Fine. Like Toledo wouldn't win many games in the Big Ten. I'm like, okay. But based on our one game against the Big Ten, we killed them at home. You don't think it would be hard for Ohio State to play in front of a full crowd at Toledo? Like if Michigan could beat Ohio State and we killed Michigan, like even it's a transitive property, fine. But like you can go 5 games below 500 in the Big Ten women and make the NCAA tournament. So even if we are only a 500 Big Ten team, we still make the NCAA tournament easily. And that's with the exact same team. So
I mean, ball doesn't lie. We beat them 2 years in a row.
Yeah, we beat them at their place too. So it's a joke, and they were vastly overseeded. They're like a 9, and they're going to get smoked. And if they win a game good, they're going to play a 1 seed. It's over for them. So Big Ten bias is Power League bias. So the next tournament, so Toledo will be playing in the WBIT, which is the new WNIT. It's an NCAA sanctioned tournament. There's 32 teams. So this is actually better than what I presumed we were going to be in, because it's like the 4 number 1 seeds are the last 4 out by the committee. So like this actually has bearing. And then if you won your regular season, you do get an automatic bid into this. So this is like, we deserve to be in this tournament. One of the number 1 seeds declined, so they had to backfill with James Madison as a 1 seed. But that was just because the rest of the bracket was filled up, and so JMU went to a 1 seed. But Toledo beat them. UT got a 2 seed, so we are one of the best regular conference champs that are in this tournament, which places us probably as like the 6th or 7th team that was left out. And we're going to play a 29-6 Cleveland State team who is very, very good. Green Bay won their league. Cleveland State beat Green Bay this year one time. Cleveland State played some MAC teams. They beat Akron and Central Michigan, who are at the bottom of the MAC, pretty handily, but they lost the season opener to Bowling Green. So Cleveland State's gettable. It's a home game, which is sweet. And because we're a 2 seed, we would also get a home game, the next game, which features Florida and St. John's. Florida is the 3 seed. So Saturday sometime, hopefully like a normal afternoon time for our crowd. If we win, we could see maybe Florida at Savage. And the 1 seed in the WBIT on our side is Washington State, which is the old athletic director's stomping grounds. So I don't know if he had anything to do with that. Washington State's very, very good. I know they were, 19-13 or something like that, but they knocked off Gonzaga, and we know how good Gonzaga is. They're a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. So none of these games are going to be easy. It's not like the old WNIT where you'd have some walkthrough rounds before you'd start to get your 500 SEC teams into Savage. We got a lot of seniors. It's a time to show it. I can't go Thursday, sadly. I have prior obligations, which I wish we just could reschedule, but it's fine. But Saturday I'll definitely be in attendance. Michaela Purdue is the leading scorer for Cleveland State. She used to play for Toledo. She was on our 2021 roster as a freshman, and then she redshirted after that. But she played in 9 games. I remember her as the back end of the bench type player. But after a short stint at a community college, she is at Cleveland State and scoring big time for them. So they're going to be a good team. It'd be a huge win for our resume at the end of the season. But because we have this new WBIT, we're going to have to hang another banner after we just changed up our banners this year. WBIT 2024. It's been a great year. You just Q and Soph step up. You got to.
It's going to be interesting if Toledo can make a run. I think they do have a mismatch on the post, and they have a few options, obviously, to cycle in and rotate. So it could be an interesting matchup.
It's sadly against like Buffalo and Western, we didn't play our bigs a whole lot. These teams were just running 4 or 5 guards because in film, that's probably a way that they found that they could have an edge, and it worked. But if we're playing a team on short notice like Florida, they might not know a whole bunch about what we do offensively. And I think a player like Hannah Novorovsky at 6'5" might scare the shit out of a power team, especially playing at Toledo.
Great point, Dan. All right, well, we're going to wrap this thing up with Nate Texas Rocket Kresge. And he's going to fill in on some baseball and softball for us.
Yeah, just quick update on both of them. Baseball right now sitting at 8-12 overall, 4-2 in MAC play. Got a series coming up against Ball State on the 22nd and 23rd and 24th. So got a series in the MAC coming up. They did opening MAC play. They swept Akron. And then lost the series against Western in MAC play 1-2. So not too bad in the MAC positions. Not overall great record of 8-12, but let's see what they can do in the MAC. Softball, on the other hand, they are coming up against a series against Bowling Green this weekend. They are 10-12 overall and 1-2 in conference, so have not as many conference games. We'll see. I believe was it canceled tonight, Dan?
The men's season opener, our home opener, was canceled today. I think they're supposed to play Wright State.
Okay, all right, gotcha. But yeah, so yeah, a little cold weather up there causing some delays, but yeah, we'll see what both teams can do in the MAC, and hopefully catch some fire going in the MAC season.
All right, thanks, Nate, and
watch out for those games to maybe be canceled too, because the weather's not supposed to break, and Muncie and Bowling Green aren't too far away. So
yeah,
no, we're pretty much sitting in the 40s right now. So you get towards the evening here, it gets cold pretty quick, unfortunately.
Climb down here, we got 60s and 70s down here. Just make them play down in Texas.
I mean, you can gloat about that, Nate, but let's see how you're feeling in July.
Why don't you can boss them down there, Nate? You can on your penny.
That's right. That's right. Listen.
Yeah, all that sponsorship money you're making with the podcast.
We had pro day too.
We did. All 32 teams.
There's no way that's happened too many times.
No, it's phenomenal to see. Really, it's cool.
And Quinyon didn't even work out, so pretty cool. They didn't really release numbers. I saw like Dallas Gant's vertical was 35 inches. And the Blade said he is the next projected guy to get drafted if we have another one. I think we have a couple guys that could definitely play at the next level. I think Bauer, I think Culpepper, I think Maddox, I think could be a CFL guy. He's really fast.
What's interesting is I was kind of curious to see because we had 8 active Toledo players in the NFL this previous season, and I think it's more than like 6 or 7 Power 5 schools currently, and I know it's tied with Indiana for current players on rosters. So it's nice to see that the MAC is developing the talent for the next level.
You know what's interesting is at Texas's pro day down here, Quinn Ewers worked out this year at their pro day to give the scouts a little sneak peek. I didn't know you could do that. I was not aware that you could work at a pro day and you weren't going into the draft.
You know what? I wonder if they had wide receivers that wanted someone to throw them the ball accurately. And so they were like, here's our quarterback that you'll see next year. But because I know Toledo in the past has had like Bruce Gradkowski come and throw balls.
Okay.
But they don't want, like, UT in the past has held some smaller schools, like also I think Mount Union came here one year, Adrian College, and they're also working out. And then like one year, one of those quarterbacks was the dude throwing balls and he was just awful. Oh. And so like you want a guy there that can at least give the wide receivers a chance to show off. So maybe it was something like that. I don't know.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just found that interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I think we'll wrap this up, but just let the fans know we will be working on a few guests for the main show in the spring here, more than likely associated with the football program as they're kind of in the off season here. They do have the spring game coming up, but yeah, we plan on getting as many guests as possible and have you guys listen in on everybody in the programs. So
we got bracket challenge too. If this gets out before, even if you're a couple games late, they're not worth very many points. So get in the bracket challenge, compete with us, 2 brackets per user, and see if you're better than Dan Rocket Man Savage.
Probably not. Dan knows his stuff. See if you can beat him. All right, boys. Well, I'm Kyle W. Smith. I got Nate Texas Rocket Kresge with me and Dan Rocket Man Savage. And we'll see you on the next Refuel.